Hi, in this video I will show you how to convert an image into a curve in COMSOL multiphysics. After you do this conversion, you can, for example, perform a simulation or you can convert it into 3D geometry and 3D print it or whatever you want. Here is COMSOL. What you have to do is to make a new model. I started 3D models. We don't want to do any simulation right now. It's only discussing about geometry, so I do not select any model or study. All right, so first step is that you click on developer, add in libraries, COMSOL multiphysics, you check the box, image to curve. Okay. In geometry, you right click, you create a work plane. This is the work plane where we want to put our image on. Click on add ins, image to curve. All right, so let us assume that we have several images. Here is the very basic one. This is a logo of my university. This is an image, it's not a vector. You see it's pixelizing. And for example, if I have a PowerPoint, some images, you can also save them as image. Let's say I name this one or picture 1 and this one picture 2. All right. So what you do is that in image to curve, you click on browse and you select the image that you want. Let us select the logo of the University. There are several options here. The first one is the type of filter. By default is Gaussian. You can change the filter type to none, edge, Laplace, Helmholtz, and so on. You can experiment with them and see which filter works the best for your image. If the image is very clear, like this case, with very clear edges, then like Gaussian or none or some of them will work very perfectly. And then this one would show basically the tolerances of the curve. We will see how it affects the final results. And finally, we have the number of interpolation. If you want only one interpolation or multiple time refinement based on linear interpolation or neighborhood. All right, so what you do is that you click on curve. This is everything default, so I didn't change anything. And you observe that the image becomes a curve. And this curve will appear in your geometry. Now, for example, you can right click on geometry and convert the image, for example, into solid if you want. This one I didn't select. And you can obviously remove the unwanted parts. Here you select domain, this part and this part. This gives you the geometry that you want. And for example, you can extrude it if you want, and so on. Well, this is very easy because the initial image that we had here was very clear. In the curve type, you could also select, for example, the curve to be open, closed, or solid. So you could also do these options. All right, so now I imported one image and we have it here. If you want to import another image, what you have to do is to create a new work plane. Let's say this is work plane 2. You can move this work plane above. And now you click on image to curve. In this case, you change the work plane. For example, you select work plane 2 and I bring this one. I can convert it again to curve. And in this case, I directly select solid. So it gives me this one. And basically it appears on this work plane, I can, for example, extrude this. And then if we make the other one, let's say TU-Delf is there, we can also move the other one a bit down. So now you have multiple images in 3D which you can work with them. So in case you want to have multiple images, every time you create a new work plane, you move the work plane up and basically import the image into that new work plane. All right, so this is when you have very clear images which the edges are very known and COMSOL can recognize those edges. When we deal with 2D, if it is not in 3D, then the process of adding multiple image would be a little bit different. So now I will show you how to add multiple images if you are working only on 2D, not on 3D. Okay, so I open a new COMSOL. All right, so now I have a 2D. Again, nothing. Because we already have clicked on that developer, it's already here. So I can add image to curve. Okay, let me select, for example, this one. Convert it to solid. And then I can delete the unwanted part. Domain, this one and this one. Okay, so this, what happened? Okay, so in this case, you should not delete them. Basically, this one, let me disable it. We can subtract. And also another one. Yeah, but this is okay. This is not important. I wanted to show something different. Let's say we have this first image imported. If you want to import a new image, the problem is you will delete the first image because we have only one component here. I could create a new component, but then there will be different geometry. One thing that you can do is that at this stage, you can actually right click on geometry and export this model. So for example, I name it as 1. So I export it. Now I can create my new geometry. Let's say in this case was this. Okay, we can convert it. And we have this one. So now this is good. These two are not relevant anymore. So I disable them. If I want to bring the other image, very simply, you just right click on this and import the image that you have saved. Now you have that one. You can move it. Yeah, basically in this case, you can have multiple images imported in COMSOL. All right, so this is very clear. Now we go to the next step, and that is if the image is not very obvious. So in this case, the images are very clear, but there are many scenarios where the image is not that obvious. For example, here I have a spoon. For us, this spoon is very clear, but for COMSOL, maybe this spoon is not as clear. So first step is to maybe resize this spoon because we don't want to have too large of a file. Okay, so I save it as a spoon 1. Let me delete these. So in the image, I click on browse the spoon. This is our image. And let's say we can convert it into curve. You notice that when we convert it into a curve, it does not show us very beautiful curve. In this case, what we have to do is to change the parameters that we have here. For example, this threshold, I can change the threshold. Let's say instead of this, let us have a bit higher threshold and see what happens. This is the new curve that is recognized. Okay, so this one gives us more or less reasonable shape, although there are some problems here. Let us not have it as a solid curve, as open curve, let's say. Let's see what it produces. Yeah, this is the graph that we have. It's not as perfect. Maybe we can increase it a bit more and see what we get. Yeah, still there is this problem there. We go a bit more. Maybe that will solve the issue. Okay, let us assume that this is good. We can fix this part later. What I can do, you can right click on it and we can move it away. So let us move it away here. What I can do also, I can delete the other parts, which I don't want them. So these are gone. Now we are left with this. So this is already very good. We can convert it into solid. But let us assume that you want to fix this part. And this part you don't like it. What you can do is to click on the sketch. Select, for example, polygon. I'm going to create, let's say, point here. And maybe not like that. Maybe a point here and a point here. Because I want to delete this part from the main one. Okay. This is our polygon, maybe. What you do is to right click and create partition. You select your main object and you want to partition it by this. You click. Again, you right click on the geometry. And in this case, we want to split the main object. So if you split it, because we partition, we can now delete this part. Delete. Now you can create a polygon and we are going to connect these things together. You right click on geometry, create a union. This part, this part, this part, everywhere. So this one, you create a union, right click, convert it into, where is it? Convert it into solid. And now you have your spoon. Maybe it's not as perfect as it is, but yeah, this is something that is reasonable. All right, so now this is done. I'm going to show you another example. All right, so I open a new COMSOL. This is the image which I want to import. Let me shrink it. You can also resize it if you want. This is smaller, it's easier to work with because you need lesser processing power. So we go to 2D, to geometry, image to curve. Select your image. Yeah, we can convert it into curve. Now these are still very clear images. But as you can see, it cannot recognize the full part. We could, for example, change the threshold. Yeah, maybe this is what we get. Now apparently this threshold is the best for Gaussian filter. If I select other filter, we can see what happens. There is no filter. Yeah, it produces something, but it's not as clear. A lot of noises inside it. Yeah, let us assume that this is the graph without any filter and that threshold. So this is what we have. What we can do actually is that in some scenarios where the image is not very good, in this case, it's actually with Gaussian, we could get a nice image. But let's say there are scenarios which the curves are not very clean. In that case, you can use a sketch to completely draw the curve on the graph that you have. It will not be as good as if you could directly get it from the drawing, but sometimes that is what you have to do. So you just follow the graph, zoom out, zoom in, and then put the point. All right, so after a long procedure of selecting the points on the curve, you have a pretty good interpolation. And now you can, for example, move this object. Or because we had some circles also there, you can also create those circles if you want. It's not accurate then, but all right, what do we expect? You can also change the size, move it a bit, or if you want, you can also make it smaller. Yeah, so this is, for example, the circles. We can actually duplicate it. Yeah, you can move it a bit up, and then you can move it to the other parts. You can repeat this process. All right, so we have this one. Now we can move everything away. So basically this will be our final product. It's not as perfect, but this is one way of converting an image into a graph. So if you don't have clear dimensions and you just have an image, then you can convert it and then scale it to the actual size. All right, so in this case, at least we could get some kind of nice edges and then we could follow it clearly. The last example is scenarios which you will not be able to get any nice edges. Let's do that one. I open a new COMSOL. Now in this case, the picture is very fuzzy, so too many things. Obviously, it would be very difficult to convert it directly into some lines. Of course, same way as I explained in the previous part, you can follow the lines by interpolation, but yeah, you notice that it's not going to give you proper curvature, so it will be difficult to even follow the lines. Maybe we change the threshold. Yeah, you can see that it's pretty complicated to convert this one into a good curve. So it's important that when you take your image, the image should be very clear, maybe nice background, white background, so that it can be recognized. Now that this part is black and the body is also more or less black, it's difficult to distinguish. If you select another filter, for example, Laplace, you can actually convert the image into some artistic picture. Okay, not this one, maybe the other side. Yeah, let's convert it to that using Laplace filter. Of course, this is not something that you want in your model, but this is no more for modeling, it's for converting your image into a different shape. Okay, so what we can do is to delete the unnecessary parts. Okay, so you right click, export the lamp. Alright, so now I can open the lamp with Adobe Illustrator. So I have Adobe Illustrator open. So I can open the file that we exported from COMSOL. Okay, so this is the file. If I zoom in on this file, you notice that these pieces are actually small paths that are close next to each other. If you want to, for example, convert this into a shape and then add some color to this, we can do it. For example, I can select this part and then you can select shape builder, and if you drag on it and you select them, then this becomes a shape. And here I can change the color. Let's select this color, for example. Basically we can color them. So this is what I'm going to do. So you cannot select all of them at once because it becomes very slow. So what you have to do is, for example, first let us select this top part. You click on shape builder and then you drag on it so that it converts those parts into shape. After it is done, you again click on select and now you can change the color. So for example, this was the red color. So this part become red. Again, we can select, use this one. So shape builder, drag on it. Okay, so I'm going to do this for all parts and then we'll show you the last stage. So instead of direct selection, also you can use the other tool so that if some parts are very long, you can select that because then it will be much faster. Alright, so now that we converted the paths into shapes and we colored them, we can also change the color if you want. You can select everything and from fill, for example, I select green. Now I can export it as SVG, and after that we can transfer it to a Word document and from there to a PowerPoint. Okay, I have saved it as SVG. Now I open a Word document. You can drag and drop the SVG file into a Word. Now that you have the SVG file in Word document, you can copy paste it into your PowerPoint. And there you have a very beautiful lamp in the PowerPoint. So that is all for this video. See you next time. Bye.